LAXposed presents interview with foreign political analyst Reza Aslan.
The next one was from Cafferty of CNN. He once asked you, I'm not hearing anything from the organized moderate voice of Islam in the Middle East. Why not? Why not? And your response was,
well, I hate to say this, but
you're not listening hard enough.
I mean, this is a movement that is just enormous and overwhelming, but unfortunately, for some reason, we are not that cognizant of it here in the United States. Now, perhaps that may be because it's just not sexy enough.
Maybe not just sexy enough for the media.
First of all, what is an organized moderate voice? I mean, what is it, like the moderate Muslims of America? I mean, it's just a stupid question. The question implies that the moderates are some sort of, exception to the rule. And that, where is this exception? How can we hear this exception come on? Which is stupid. I mean, the reason that you hear extremists is because they blow shit up. And when you blow shit up, you get on TV. When you go to mosque and mind your own business, no one puts you on TV. By definition, the moderate voice is a quiet voice. It's the voice minding its own business. That question assumes that of the 1.6 billion people on earth who are Muslims, 1 out of 4 human beings on this earth who are Muslims, there's this minority who are just minding their own business, practicing their faith in peace, and we need to hear from that minority. The question implies the answer. When anyone asks you, where's the moderate voice of Islam, they don't want an answer. They're answering that question with the question itself. What they're saying is, there is no moderate voice.
But I am interested in the answer because I want there to be...
Every Muslim in the world, with the possible exception of the few couple of hundred who are out there killing people, are moderate Muslims. So in other words, if your definition of moderate Muslim is somebody who doesn't kill somebody else, then okay, that's about 1.6 billion Muslims.
I see what you're saying.
So what we're doing is that we are defining Islam based on, the sort of radical voices that we see on television, and assuming that those voices are the majority, that those voices are the norm. When someone says, where is moderate Islam, what they mean is, this is what Islam is, there must be some alternative voice. The idiocy of that question speaks for itself, because what it assumes is that the guy that you're seeing on Fox News is the representative of 1.6 billion people on Earth.
I feel like the extremists or the terrorists have taken the book of the Quran and said,
Sure.
I am Muslim, and they have basically drowned out the voice of the 1.5 billion moderate Muslims that you say.
I'd say the same thing is true of Christianity, to be
honest.
honest.
But if they're drowning it out, and right now there's this Islamophobia in America, and it's unfortunate, because I do see that Muslims are peaceful people. I've never met a terrorist. I've never, seen anything like that. But the problem is that they don't have a strong enough voice. And I feel that, especially with you, Reza, my mom thinks you're a handsome guy. You got the looks, you got the youth. Why not actually be that voice for them? Because historically, it's worked. Martin Luther King Jr. He was the guy for the...
Look, there are thousands of people out there like me who are writing and who are speaking about Islam,
but not in the position you're in.
Change them. Yeah, sure there are. Ibu Patel and Ani Sonnenfeld, and Amina Wadud, Imam Faisal Abdul Rauf, Daisy Khan. That's just America alone. But the point is that the idea that one of us can sort of be the spokesperson, be the representative of the rest of us, flies in the face of everything that Islam stands for. If people want to see me as some sort of role model, fantastic. If they want to look at my theology and follow it, good for you. That's great. But I am in no more a position to define someone as a correct believer of Islam than Osama bin Laden is.
Right.
You know, nobody gets to do that. Not him, not me. All I can do is say, based on my decade and a half of work and research and academic credentials, this is what I think is the most reasonable interpretation of this faith. You can follow it or you cannot. But I, you know, by any means, I'm not going to put myself up as some sort of standard that, you know, other people should emulate.
What about create a committee, create a group of people, you know, from all different sects of Islam, and then collaborate, kind of like the Vatican. Collaborate, although I don't know if the Vatican actually has. I think they're all Roman
No,
Catholic.
it's just one guy. Yeah, it's just one guy and the bishops that he himself appoints.
But I guess
there are a lot of. I mean, listen, there are a lot of groups. I mean, you know, I think of the Muslims for Progressive Values.
But I mean, no one's ever.
Quranists.
I don't think the general American population have actually heard of these groups.
General American population has never heard of me.
They've heard of the NAACP.
Well, they've heard of the NAACP because they have a lot of power and money. I mean, that's you know.
But you know that's a great point you just made. Money, power.
Yeah.
Don't you think that these guys, these terrorists, they basically, the reason why they're drowning the rest of the Muslims out is because they have the money?
Well, no, you don't need a lot of money to just ram an airplane into a building. I mean, they drown everybody out because they shout the loudest. But again,
So why not shout louder?
Well, I mean, in many ways, I mean,
Because
that's
I
what the
feel
point
like
was
that
making
was the
before.
purpose of David Cafferty's question. He wanted the rest of the Muslim people to shout louder, and I felt like it was a fair question.
Well, why in the world would, you know, Joe Muhammad living in, you know, Dearborn, Michigan, working 9 to 5, taking his kids to school, going to a mosque, who the hell says he has to answer for Osama bin Laden? Where does you know, Joe Blow over here on the corner have to answer for every guy who tries to blow up an abortion clinic?
I'm not saying they need to, but then again, that brings me to my suggestion of having this leader, this spokesperson, because I mean, you look at the structure of America, we always elect a president every 4 years. He becomes America. George Bush became...
I don't want to be president of the Muslims, if that's what you're asking. Look, what you're doing is part of the human condition. What you want is something that's concrete, something that you can point to, a there that's there. That's what you want. That's what everybody wants. It's why religion becomes absolutist so quickly. It's because, and not just religion, but nationality. It's why America is the greatest country that has ever existed. I don't need any proof for that. I don't need to actually, you know, defend it anyway. It's just a postulate that capitalism is the greatest force for human civilization. I don't need any proof for that. It's just a postulate. These kinds of absolutes are how we define ourselves as human beings, and religion is no different than any other absolute. Of course, the difference with religion is that you bring God into the equation. But, you know, again, the idea is that if you ideologize any kind of conception, you're going to turn it into an absolute. Even those, like yourselves, who are open and you know, modern and secular, and not easily defined by absolutes, can't help but want something that you can attach to say that's Islam or that's moderate
But I would
Islam
think
or
the
something
majority
like
of people... See, what I'm trying to get is you share a minority viewpoint, which is great. I think your viewpoint is exceptionally amazing. But the problem is that it seems like the majority of the American population, maybe even the world, doesn't agree that I think they would rather have that image. They want to... It's an unfortunate fact of human society. They want to categorize. They want to make things as simple as possible. They rather label everybody as Muslim, everybody as Christian.
The majority of Americans also think that the Earth is 6,000 years old.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're stupid. But the point is this. My job is to write, to speak, to study, and to share with people the ideas that I have formed after a lifetime of study. If people are drawn to those ideas, fantastic. But by no means do I feel either qualified or even have the desire.
You are overqualified, I think, with your educational background.
I don't need to be anybody's leader. I don't need to be anybody's shepherd. I have no desire to be anybody's shepherd by any means. Because to be somebody's shepherd, to be a leader in the form that you're saying, you have to first begin with this fundamental statement: I am right. And when you say I am right, what you immediately are saying is that if you disagree with me, you are wrong. And what I'm saying is that when it comes to religion, as much as we want this to not be the case, there is no right and wrong interpretation. Every religion, scripture, whether it's the Bible or whether it's the Quran or the Bhagavad Gita, it doesn't matter, can be stretched and pulled to mean anything you want it to mean. In our history here in the United States, not 200 years ago, both slave owners and abolitionists not only used the same Bible to justify their arguments, they used the exact same verses to justify their opposite arguments. That's the power of Scripture. So as a scholar of religions, I cannot say that Osama bin Laden's interpretation of the Quran is incorrect, because it's not. But I can also say that my interpretation of the Quran is also correct, which is the opposite
but it's interesting,
of bin Laden's.
Because
there is no correct or incorrect.
But I do remember...
There is more reasonable and less reasonable. But there's no correct and incorrect.
But would you say then that it's allowed for these terrorists to call themselves Muslim?
Of course. And they are Muslim, because they call themselves Muslim. That's what I said at the very beginning of this conversation. A Muslim is whoever says he or she is a Muslim.
Wow.
It's not my place to say that bin Laden is not a Muslim any more than it's not his place to say that I'm not a Muslim. I reject both of those postulates.
It's a profound problem that I don't even know if it could ever be fixed.
Or it won't be fixed. I think what you're going to see in human religions in general, but in Islam in particular, is greater fracturing, more and more individualization. You will have people who will form their own micro communities, their micro ummas, the kind of sectarianism that we see, say, in Protestant Christianity, where you have thousands upon thousands of different sects, is exactly what you're going to see in Islam. And while that makes a lot of Muslims sad, because there's this idea that, well, there should be this single ummah that we all belong to regardless, it makes some Muslims mad because they say, no, there is this sort of one unified conception of Islam and you either agree with it or not. It's a reality. It's the fact. So just get used to it.
For more videos and interviews from LAXposed, please subscribe to our YouTube channel now. Also like us on Facebook and or follow us on Twitter.